Order the Senate Insurance and Labor. I appreciate the members that are here on time, and in respect to everyone's time, we're going to get started. By the time Senator Kirkpatrick says a prayer for us, it'll be 1 o'clock. So you're at 4? What mic are you? 4?
Microphone 4.
All right, thank you.
Please bow with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for this opportunity to hang in there and to maintain our calm and equilibrium and wisdom as we deal with more and more important bills for the state of Georgia over the next few days. Give us peace and energy to get through the next couple weeks. And we thank you again in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Chairman. We will start with Senate Bill 487. That would be you. Now, just to let the rest of the committee know, this bill was heard in subcommittee, so we're going to have a very limited testimony today. We want to hear what the changes are in the committee substitute and a very, very brief overview of the bill itself, and then we'll open it up for questions. So, you have the floor, Senator.
All right, thank you. I'll talk as fast as I can.
Can you pull your microphone close to you?
How about that?
That's better, thank you.
Senate Bill 487 aims to diagnose breast cancer earlier by eliminating patients' out-of-pocket cost for medically necessary diagnostic and supplementary breast cancer. We work with various stakeholders on the Compromise Committee, substituting language before you this afternoon. Line 45 through 46 clarifies nothing in this bill will preclude existing utilization views provided under Chapter 4 of this title. This is the only change we made. Typically used as a follow-up test after an abnormal finding on a screening mammogram or clinic breast exam, diagnostic breast exam, i.e. breast ultrasound and MRI, is an essential tool to the screening and diagnostic of breast cancer. Eliminating out-of-pocket costs for diagnostic imaging would improve access and lead to more patients receiving earlier detection services and returning screens. Additionally, this legislation is critical for breast cancer survivors, as diagnostic imaging is typically recommended as primary breast imaging for breast cancer survivors. If the individuals are unable to afford the cost associated with diagnostic imaging, many might go forward follow-up tests to rule out to confirm breast cancer diagnosis, leading to later stage diagnosis, which makes it more deadly and more costly to treat. All right.
Thank you, ma'am. Does anybody have any questions for the author? We don't have anybody signed up, so to speak. Any questions? If not, I will entertain a motion. Senator Robertson.
Mr. Chairman, if the time is appropriate, I make a motion to pass.
It is appropriate.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on due pass for Senate Bill 487, and the LC substitute is 520119S? All those in favor, please raise your hand for me. Any opposed, like sign? All right, congratulations. Good luck in rules.
Thank you very much.
Senator Jackson is not in the house. Okay. Well, I was going to do mine last, but since she's not ready, we'll go ahead and get started. Are you okay to?
All right. Chairman Burke is bringing us Senate Bill 566. Go ahead, Chairman Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and you have a substitute in your packet. This bill number is 520115S, and this bill is a minor adjustment to the surprise billing bill that we passed several years ago. It basically tries to do a couple things. One, it makes sure that mental health conditions or substance abuse disorders are covered under the statute. The second is it clarifies that if somebody's admitted as an emergency patient with a diagnosis that requires an inpatient stay, that inpatient stay and that emergency visit should be considered one billable incident, because from the standpoint of care, that patient is treated as one from a billing standpoint, from the doctor, from the hospital. That's one bundled event. There's not a claim that's submitted separately for the emergency room and the inpatient stay if it's a admitted diagnosis, and this just clarifies that. And then the other part is it does make sure that people understand that if you do get admitted voluntarily at a place that's out of network, in other words, you make the choice to pick an out-of-network hospital, that you are responsible for any kind of co-pays and deductibles, which is kind of on its face fairly self-explanatory. So that's the summary of the bill, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any questions for the author? Okay. Senator Harbin?
I'm correct that if you have an emergency issue, you don't have to deal with the preferred provider. It's going to accept that automatically.
That's right. Part of the bill we passed in the past already clarified that, and we've not having any real significant problems with that part.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, what mic are you for?
Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, I'd like to move do pass on LC 520115S.
All right, got a motion and a second to do pass. We do have two people signed up in favor of the bill. Anna and Tim, do y'all want to waive your?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Please vote yes.
All right, any discussion? All right, I'll call the question. All in favor, raise your hand. All right, it passed unanimously, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, the last bill we're going to do today is Senate Bill 468. Senator Jackson, if you want to come forward and present your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be working off of LC 393203. Is that correct for you all?
Yes.
Great. So what this bill does is that it seeks to make sure that the families of public safety officers who die by suicide are able to receive the death benefit from the indemnification fund. The indemnification fund was actually established by constitutional amendment. There was a referendum that all of the people of Georgia voted on to say that we wanted to make sure that if a person dies in the line of duty while working as a public safety officer, that their families would be entitled to a particular death benefit. This would expand it to include those who die by suicide. I think a few key things to note. Most people who, I guess first of all, it's important to note that second to COVID, suicide is the greatest leading cause of death of all law enforcement officers. So before COVID, suicide was the greatest leading cause of death of law enforcement officers. So this is a problem for us. And it's one that we hope to address in a number of bills. And ultimately, you know, our mental health bill, the ways that we address other issues of mental health, ultimately, we want to get this number down to 0. That's our goal. But in the meantime, until we get that number down to 0, we want to make sure that these families are adequately compensated. There's much more that I can say, but I'm happy to take questions if that would be.
Thank you. Senator Harbin.
Yes, please, Senator Jackson. Line 39 and 40 says, in the case of death suffered, then it strikes, it says by a public safety officer while in the line of duty. When I read that, the line of duty means they are actually on duty, on the job, but once they come off the job, that does not apply. Is that correct?
That's right. So we've expanded the definition of what in the line of duty means. We did this last year by statute to include firefighters and other law enforcement who die by heart attack, acknowledging that you may not die of the heart attack while you're on the clock per se, but it's due to that strenuous activity that it can happen after you're home. So we're using that same exact logic to expand and say, you know, if you've been at work within the last 30 days, and you die by suicide, that will be included as in the line of duty.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Let's see, I've got a couple more came in. And just to remind everyone, there is a fiscal note in your packet, so you have a few moments to review that if you would like. And I, again, didn't see which one came up first, so yours did, or? Okay. Is that Senator Harbin?
Question, that is, why the cutoff for 30 days for law enforcement? Can you tell us that? Because it could be a very delayed situation, I would expect.
Sure. So we just needed to create some parameters here for when a person who dies by suicide would be included. And, you know, after conversations, we've spoken with a number of different law enforcement agencies and firefighters. After some conversation, we felt like a month after the last day that you were on duty would kind of give enough space to catch. But I certainly would welcome a friendly amendment that expands that timeline. But that's kind of just what we need to land on a date, and that's where we were.
Yeah, I'm going to yield to the senator from 29th on that part, but I just think it's just really, by the chairman's leave, I just think it's just something we ought to look at, because it could be 31 days or 2 months or something. That's but right. Anyway, I commend you for the bill you bring forth.
Thank you.
Senator Robertson.
Yeah, I just want to briefly say to the senator, I appreciate this legislation. I appreciate the hard work you put into it. Had 3 very close friends who chose this method to end their lives, and their families would have benefited from this. Luckily, we had things that we were able to do, but I think I appreciate the appreciation that you have shown, not only for my brothers and sisters in law enforcement, but also for those in firefighter, EMS, and in those paramedic groups that see the worst of the worst, and at some point do have a breaking point. And so I really appreciate that. And Mr. Chairman, at the proper time, I would make that motion. Do pass.
All right, we have a motion, and I do think it's the proper time. Are you seconding, or do you want to speak? Okay, well, we'll go ahead and let you ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too support this legislation, but I'm just curious. It doesn't sound like this is an insurance product per se. I mean, it's a state funded benefit just out of our general budget, I take it.
That's right. So the funds for this fund are appropriated every year at around $400,000. There are no restrictions in terms of it's not an insurance project. We did clarify with DOAS to just make sure that there wasn't anything that would prohibit us from making this change, and they're fine with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this would be in the category just a employment benefit that the state would provide. So I see no more questions, and we didn't have anyone signed up to testify, so I am opening the floor for, I think Senator Robinson's already made the motion, and Senator Harbison seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of moving forward Senate Bill 468, please raise your hand. All right, any opposed? I don't see any. It's unanimous. So congratulations. Good luck in rules.
Thank you all so much.
I want to thank the members of our committee for their hard work getting us to, this was our last meeting before bills would be eligible for crossover day. So appreciate your accommodation getting that extra meeting in today, and look forward to working with you guys on the House bills that have come through. Please take the time to review them and get with me if you see something in that stack that you like or that you don't like. I'd like to know either way. So we are now adjourned. Thank you for your attention.